What's up, twerps? Today, this Dark Souls trilogy comes to an end. Before I forget, the rules for this run, which will inevitably be broken, are as follows. Whips only, no shields, no summons, and throwing knives are the only sub-weapons allowed. With these rock-solid rules in place, we meet our champion for this Souls game. The OG, the myth, the blonde, the one and only, Simon Belmont. With one of the most iconic Belmonts on our side, we picked the mercenary class for the high dex and grabbed the life ring burial gift as usual. After waking up from a nap that left me lost and confused, I try to remember the basics of living, like blinking and breathing and grittying. After a couple minutes of breathing exercises, I fight through to the other side of the Cemetery of Ass, where I find Udex Gundyr, the first of 25 bosses. With the big Gunner out-edged, we move on to the Firelink Shrine, where I find the second best Firekeeper. Seek lest, bitch. I also find a freaky grandma who constantly moans in my ear every time I pass by. Maybe if she offered me more than some old fish and mid-items, I'd consider it. After pissing around, I head to the high wall of Lothric and find the one rapper Eminem is too afraid to diss. I also receive the Halo Reach banner and make my way to the newest arbiter of the series. Thanks to this big axe and his big ass, we beat him first try and raise the Halo banner, where some ghosts take me to the undead settlement. After slogging my way through this undead shithole, I find the whip and celebrate like there's no tomorrow. After testing out this quirky little whip, I realized this run might be a little more miserable than I anticipated. Thanks to its wacky moveset, it can often miss most hits that would otherwise hit with a normal weapon. Not only is the whip problematic, but the curse-rotted shitwood is also a tedious boss at best. A janky weapon plus a janky boss equals many whiffed whips and a couple salty deaths. Finally, after several attempts, the tree is chopped and my controller is broken. Next, I run through the Shiesty Swamp to fight one of the easier bosses, the Crystal Sage. At least that's what I thought. I've beaten this game 3 times and I've never had this much trouble against this dork. But even with 15 deaths, this soy boy sorcerer can't compete against the tactic of bashing your head against a wall until a different outcome is achieved. After beating the Crystal Cuck and proving I'm perfectly sane, I head to the Cathedral of the Deep, where I acquire my new weapon, which will be used for most of this run, the Notched Whip. Oh, and I also met Slave Knight Gale, and he might have sucked me off to the painted world of Ariandel or whatever, who cares. Anyways, I trek through the massive medieval cathedral and stumble upon whoever this nasty bitch is. Afterwards, I go fight the Geekers of the Deep, which is actually fun with the whip. Being able to hit so many enemies at once with such wide strikes felt pretty baller, to be honest. At least the attacks that actually hit, that is. With the Freakins of the Deep out-auraed, I received the small doll, which will allow me to cross the bridge into Boreal Valley. But who the fuck cares about that right now? We move on to one of my favorite Dark Souls 3 bosses, the Abyss Watchers. Although he's not very tough, he's still fun to fight against. And I like the guy that comes in midway through the fight and just kind of like throws hands with anybody he sees. Like, that's pretty alpha male of him. That's pretty girl boss of him to just do that for real. With this first phase easy peasy and his second phase lemon squeezy, I drink a beer in his face and move on through the catacombs of Carthus. After arriving in Carthus, I realize the dreadful fight I'm about to undertake. Not a physical fight, but a mental one. For this is a fight against addiction. The sweet purple addiction of lean into cup. I give in to my urges for but a moment, and the lean takes hold of me, sending me into a dark place where I must defend myself against skeletons and a king skeleton named Wolnir. And after a sweaty lean-induced fight with what I can only assume was actually a bunch of innocent homeless people and not a bunch of skeletons trying to kill me, I quietly move on and vow to never drink lean again for at least 15 minutes. With my addiction conquered, I move further into hell to fight the old Demon King in the Battle of the Busters. ODK ends up pre-busting 6 times in a row before he's finally fucked off, and with me out-edging him in Crown Champion Cuck, I make my way to the anime city of Irithyll of the Boreal Valley. I don't stay long, as the only thing here for me is an ass whooping that I'm not looking forward to. So instead, I make my way to the Irithyll dungeons, otherwise known as the Diddy Tunnels. I find some baby oil in a cell, and make my way past some contraptions and devices that I can only guess what they are used for. After the tunnel ends, I find myself in the home of nearby celebrity, Yhorm the Gooner, who only gets off if you use a specific goon tool on him. After acquiring the Yhorm ruler and blasting off loads at Yhorm, he is finally arrested and sent to whatever hell Diddy is in. Next, I decide to head to Pontiff Sullivan, who, like mentioned earlier, whoops my ass 10 times in a row, fewer than I had imagined, but still leaves my ass red and my pants brown. After a quick change of pants, I make my way to the OG City of Tears, good old Anne Orlando. Here, meet a lady who asked me to become a blade of the Dark Moon, which I accept because it sounds cool as shit. I clear out the inner part of the cathedral, including the fuzzy fuckhead. Finally, I decide to fight Aldrich, Devourer of Gods, who was just an appetizer before the main course. The main course being the Dancer of the Boreal Valley. I always thought this fight was pretty fun too. Not really much to complain about, honestly. But, with another first try W, I move on through the lean swamps, which tempt me to break my 30 minutes of sobriety. With temptation pushed aside, and my grind set mindset activated, I face Osiris, the lean-consumed king. As I know the exact withdrawals he's going through, I decide to put him out of his misery. Just like all druggies, he had a hidden chamber where I find all of his pawnable treasures. I also find another hidden chamber, which hides Champion Gundyr, the copious dealer. What is he a copious dealer of exactly? Well, let's just say my peanuts. Gundyr is a dealer of hands, and as I was feeling particularly happy today, I decided to order 5 ass-kicking combos and a side of sobbing. With my day thoroughly ruined, I make sure to blubber my way through Lothric Castle, all the way to the next dealer of pain. Dragon Slayer armor was in a particularly aggressive mood today, as he handed me 6 defeats on a piss-soaked plate. But after these monumental defeats of confidence, the game decides to reward my anguish with access to the Grand Archives, where I almost immediately get invaded by B. Gada H. Kai, who uses the janky hitbox devil fruit powers to humiliate me. After a quick break and a refreshing shit, I go on a long, arduous journey to reach the 2 princes, Lorien Elder Prince and Lothric Younger Prince. With their white boy might combined with the Chairs of Doom, it proved too much for any normal man to handle. But with enough avoidance and destruction of the evil chairs, I managed to beat the shit out of the 2 princes on my 3rd try. Now, with my confidence on an all-time mid, I head to one of my most dreaded areas of this game, the Archdragon Peak. First things first, to get to the much-anticipated fight with the Nameless Nobody, I gotta get past the Ancient Wyvern, and after 8 straight minutes of whipping this ball crusher, I decided it's not worth the time or effort to continue this labor. So I decided to stab the shitbird in the head and move on. Now is the time to toll the bell of my foreshadowed demise. With the Nameless King riding atop his feathery dragon, they hand me undisputed defeat after undisputed defeat. With these crushing defeats, I decide the DLC is actually not that bad, and head back to the painted world of Ariendel. While here, I challenge the Champion Gravetender and the Gravetender's Greywolf, which provides me with the much needed W, and a cool new weapon called the Valor Heart, which I unfortunately won't be able to use this run, but it does look cool. Next, I fight Sir Velheim, because he's a dick. And then, turn the gear which activate Miyazaki's favorite 3-phase 2 bare feet boss. Feet. Wait. No. Sister Feet. Fun fact about Sister Fried, every time she is defeated, Miyazaki sheds a tear for 2 smelly reasons. Finally, with her beaten, I push through the Dreg Heap to fight another 100-year-old Jar of Farts boss, the Double Demons, the Demon in Pain, and the Demon from Below. Fun fact about this boss fight, it sucks. After several attempts and several whiffs of the cursed jar, I decide enough is enough and summon Slave Knight Gale to help fight against these turds. With rule number 3, broken as usual, we keep it pushing to the Ring City.
Well, I guess that spot will be there tomorrow. I think I better just keep walking. Running! Better start running! 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 Sprinting! Yes! I just gotta keep sprinting! Sitting, bleeding.
After making my way through this hellhole, I run into our next target. Rimuru-kun? That's not right, shouldn't it be Canon? Who are you people? Finally, instead of fighting some asshole, I get the real boss, Half-Light, Spear of the Church, who is just as annoying as fighting a player, but less buggy. With Half-Light defeated, we come down to the fearsome 4, the fated 4, the final 4 bosses of this game. Ever since I started this goofy trilogy challenge years ago, I've been dreading these 4 bosses. First on this abysmal list of piss is Dark Eater Madeir. With an absolute agonizing 20-minute fight and 14 heartbreaking deaths to this scaly scumbag, he finally goes down. Trying to keep the momentum up, I decide to go straight for the Nameless King. And with another 14 deaths to a boss that has destroyed me in the past, I decided to call for aid and summon Sir Lancelot to defeat the King of Storms. Thanks to this warrior of sunlight, the storm subsides and we move on to the next fiendish boss. Slave Knight Gale. After 10 more deaths, the back-to-back-to-back poundings I've taken so far echo in my mind and drain my will to play this abhorrent game. I eagerly break rule number 3 again and summon YFJ, which I can only assume based on this quick Google search is Yoshi Flutterjump. But with him on my side, we take on Slave Knight, and YFJ sacrifices his life for my victory. You will not be forgotten, sweet prince, nor will your Kirby's Games rankings. With the Fatal 4 almost dealt with, there's just one soul left to beat, the soul of Dracula himself. Admittedly, he is the least troubling of the 4, but he's still difficult in his own right, the dick. After only 4 attempts, Dracula is defeated, and his curse lifted. At this point, I would have made some comparisons to Castlevania 3 and to Dark Souls 3. But honestly, I don't really know much about Castlevania 3. But what I do know is that the curse is never really broken, and that evil always returns bigger and badder. But that's a different story, for a different day. Today, I sip a cold one, lean back, relax, and end this video with a thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.